Welcome to the series on parenting about food habits and how do we balance the balance between what we have read, what we have understood, and what is the practical situation at ground, what is the need of your individual need of your child. In this part 2 video, I would try to lay out certain generic guidelines that have helped me in my parenting, and maybe you can try them to understand if they help you. The generic guidelines are like best practices or good to follow acts which can help you in your own parenting, and as it has helped me, I'm sharing this with you. Looking forward to and receiving your own individual experiences after you set up or follow any of these practices. Having said that, it as a parent you need to have tremendous patience, and for any habit to develop or for any new experiment to work, you should allow yourself at least minimum 21 days, or to see whether what works for you. And being disciplined is the first ask, which is a basic requirement about parenting. So going forward, let's look at what has helped me, what were some of the schedules that we followed and which has helped me and my child or my children develop some of the good food habits that they have, right? So there is a difference between need and a want or a desire. This video I will try to focus on the food needs. What are the basic needs of the child when it comes to food requirements? So being a child from a newborn to a teens or an adult, every phase requires a different probably the portion of the food that they want, the things that they would want to eat or food that they would want to eat. But overall, on a larger scale, whatever the phase of the parenting that we may be in, if we follow certain discipline and a certain schedule in our life, and the child also starts understanding that this is the acceptable schedule and these are the days when there will be uh, some of certain things which will be allowed and certain things which will not be allowed. The clarity, the better clarity and the better schedule that you have for your individual needs, accordingly things will start falling in place. With this understanding, when we look at what are the basic needs uh, for any age group, I'll start with the being a newborn to being a toddler and then to being an adulthood. Please understand that when you sit for eating food or when you sit for feeding your child, ensure that one sitting should not exceed more than uh, half an hour or 45 minutes. It is not like when a child is eating, so he's continuously being eating for hours and hours and hours, and he's always having a plate in his hand. So the max duration for a feed or for eating food should be around half an hour to 45 minutes. That will help you schedule your subsequent meals and subsequent feeds. Half an hour to 45 minutes is good enough time. So when you take a child to feed, and maybe in the initial stages because the stomach is small, so he may be feeling full in 10 minutes to 15 minutes. But as a parent, one should try to feed the child, at least with when we sit for feeding, we should try that we are sitting at a place for minimum half an hour when we are trying to feed the child or when we are trying to uh, feed food to the child. The Having said that, when you keep a schedule of say around half an hour to 45 minutes for one meal, from that meal to the next meal, keep a minimum a gap of 3 to 4 hours. This gap is required so that the digestion that has happened, the food which you have had in one meal, it would require some time to digest. And the digestion system will become more and more stronger when you give that much enough time for that digestion to happen and for the child to become hungry again. The second reason for asking to keep a minimum gap between the two feeds or eating food is that during that time a mother can do some other task, or the mother also would want to rest, or the mother would have some other duties to attend to. So when you follow a certain schedule, a certain routine, you get time for yourself as well. And when the schedule is followed, as the kids grow into toddlers and into children, school going children, it will help them between the breakfast and the afternoon meals when they return from the school. So because school normally when play school or preschool starts, it is like for 3 hours, 4 hours. And even as per our understanding, there should be a minimum gap between two meals. This habit in the beginning, when you say, when I'm saying 3 hours, these are just as a generic guidelines, and I'll come to the other aspect of it, when or during what times these 3 hours may get reduced to maybe 2 hours, or may get increased to 4 hours. But on a general note, it should be 3 hours gap between two meals. When for a young mother, when they are feeding their child, when you are on a feeding schedule, or when for a child who is at home, just because he is at home doesn't mean, and just because mother is available doesn't mean that he should be feeded every time or any time that he asks for. The early you start with the schedule of maintaining it, like when we say that when you sit to eat the food, it should be half an hour, and the you sit for half an hour, you eat your food, complete your food, and between two meals there are, like say, 3 hours of gap. With that understanding, we will start like between the last feed or meal of the day for a young child, it should be at around 10 p.m. With roughly food timings for like half a day from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. This can needs to be tweaked as per individual needs. Maybe instead of 9 it is, but no longer more than 10. So if your last meal is at around 10, 10:30 or 11, midnight, maybe you will have to be awake at around 12ish, 12:30, or sometimes the child will sleep around till 3 in the morning. So you may have to wake up twice at night, and slowly or gradually, which will come down to once being awake at night, and then it will increase to maybe sleeping it throughout the night. So this schedule will help you. This is a generic schedule that I've provided. If you follow these routines, maybe it will help you. So instead of 6 in the morning, maybe if you start your day at 7, you can just adjust it accordingly to it become. But don't start at 8, because it becomes too late, and then it will be 11 for you. As per your schedule, you try to inculcate this. The next thing which I would want to say is that during some time slots, you may observe that your child is more hungry. This is especially true when they are fully awake, right? When they are fully awake, they will eat properly. For that time slot, pay attention to the time it takes to finish the feed, or finish the for the child to finish the food. So this time duration is your child's natural pace of eating food. If you feel that the child is eating or gulping down the food too fast, then you need to explain that child, but you need to be with the child for that half an hour duration. Definitely it is difficult for younger parents, but you need to have that support at hand, and you need to schedule your timings so that you can be with the child. You have to learn to observe your child, because your child gives the signal. And the observant you are, when you sit, if you just give them food, especially for toddlers, if you give them food and then you continue doing your some other activity, you will not be able to observe what is the pace of your child, or at what how he's eating it. These habits, just giving food in a plate is not enough. You need to sit with the child, be there, because it becomes a time when you can actually engage with your child and inculcate some good habits into it. And second is, at other time slots, when you see, like when the child will get distracted, maybe by sleep, by tiredness, or maybe he wants to go out to play, and that's why he is just finishing it or gulping down. This especially happens when the child is coming from school. They want to sleep, so they are not interested in eating right now. The sleep overtakes them, or maybe at in the evening when they want to go out to play, and then you are giving them some brunch, so they just want to gulp it down and they want to finish it. So it is parents' duty to ensure that the child eats the required portion. He eats it properly and then he goes to sleep, or he goes to play, or whatever he is interested in doing. Tiredness, sleepiness, or getting distracted for because he wants to play something, some friend has come, should not be taken as a reason. Uh, and it is parents' duty to ensure that the parent sits with the child and maybe disciplines himself. The parent has to allow, because if you allow once, the child will always try to give that excuse. The child will also want to say that you allowed it at X point in time, so now why are you not allowing it? So if you are consistent in your own behavior, in your own schedules, in following them, your child will definitely respect these timelines as well. And I look forward, and thank you for this listening in. I look forward to receiving your comments. Thank you.